So what were other skills that you kind of had to learn when you started your virtual assistant business?
Oh my gosh. It is a testing experience becoming an entrepreneur, becoming a business owner. There are so many times where I not only was like, I don't know what I'm doing because this is new. And
Mm.
honestly, when I first started, I didn't even look at it as entrepreneurship. I just looked at it as like a new job.
Mm.
Realized in the beginning that I was actually becoming a business owner. That's what you are doing. You're becoming a business owner. You're filing your LLC. You're building your taxes. You're doing your taxes. You're marketing yourself. You're doing the client's work. You're managing your expenses. So it was a pretty overwhelming experience at first. And
Mm.
by no means is it linear. And I don't think it's meant to be linear, being an entrepreneur or being a business owner. It's meant to go in waves. So there was a lot of ups and there was a lot of downs, and there was a lot of learning experiences, especially trying to balance that, trying to balance that work life, personal life, trying to balance all your client works and getting things done on time. And there were times where I would either be late on something or I would do something wrong.
Mm.
And in that very beginning time frame, really within that first year, it's hard not to take things personally because you're doing everything on your own. It's so hard not to be like, oh my God, I'm the worst. Like I just negative self-talk. And
Mm.
that was really, really big in the beginning. Just you're going through all these different experiences for the first time, and it can be a toll. Like it can just be very heavy on yourself. And but essentially every experience, one, I was very, very, very big on open communication and
Mm.
with my clients. So I was very big on, I love all feedback. I love positive, I love negative feedback or constructive criticism, constructive feedback. Like I need to know. So I was very big on that. And wanting to hear the yes, wanting to hear the no. And I think that really helped me. But then also, there would be times where I had to realize that you're not going to satisfy every client. You're not going to do an A+ job in every single thing you do, especially in your first year. Honestly, first 2 years, you're not going to be perfect at everything you do. And that is okay. You are a human, you're not a robot. And if it's your first time starting out, especially if it's your first time starting out, you're going to make mistakes. So
Mm.
there was basically this big thing of, okay, once you make those mistakes, what are you going to do to learn from them? How are you not going to make them the next time? Or if you do make them the next time, you just really try to identify each scenario that went wrong. Like, what is it you did wrong? What happened? Was it, what did you prioritize at that time? Was it a timely manner thing? Was it, like, I remember like with one client, my weakness is um, copyright. However, I
Mm.
was offering blogs, and I still offer blog management, which basically I just create a blog for a client. Um,
Mm.
but it wasn't, I wouldn't, no, I wouldn't say it's my weakness. I would say it wasn't my strength. So I could do it and I did it well, but it wasn't my strength. So I would have
Mm.
miss spellings every now and then. And I would go through that document or that blog like 2 or 3 times, and I would use Grammarly. I don't know if you've used
Yeah.
Grammarly. And I would go through that and it'd be like, okay, good. I send it out. And then she would find some misspellings. And I would be like, oh my gosh, where is this coming from? Like, I swear I checked it. And it got very repetitive. So then basically what it came down to, like, my goal was like, okay, my goal is now going to be to hire out a copywriter, someone that specializes in
Mm.
copywriting. I want to add someone to my team that specializes to really elevate the experience for my clients. So that's what I did. I worked really hard and I set a budget aside so that way I could hire a copywriter. And then basically a year and a half later, I added a virtual assistant to my team, and then I added someone that specializes in copywriting, so I can do the big picture and I could still write up the draft. But then I have multiple eyes on that actual copy to really, deliver and give the best possible blog with no misspellings on the blog. So again, you really learn through the mistakes you made, and it's gonna go up and down. There's gonna be highs and lows, but just remind yourself that it's okay if it's not perfect, and it's okay that you can make mistakes.
Yeah, and I could definitely, what's the word, attest to that because
Yeah,
with my podcast episodes, the first two I didn't really know what I was doing just because it's the first two, and then the third one, I was talking to her, and then towards the end, I just like completely forgot my thought, and for me, like that's one of like my biggest fears because I don't really have a bunch of conversations with people. So me starting a podcast is like it's not like you could say my strength.
yeah,
So, but I want to talk to other people who have like these amazing stories.
yeah,
So when I was doing the podcast, I after it was done, I did not want to like see the episode because I have to edit that myself. So I was like, it probably took me like a day or two to actually like watch it and then edit it. But
yeah,
yeah, like those moments like really like your mind like really like hits you hard like or like punishes you could say, but
yeah.
I really had to like learn like it's okay, like you're gonna make mistakes and all of that. So yeah, it's like really important to give yourself grace at the end of the day.
Yeah, that's very similar to kind of it's a confidence build, like, and especially if it's something that's out of your comfort zone and that's something that's new in the beginning,
Mm-hmm.
that means you're challenging yourself. So one, awesome job. You're challenging yourself, you're getting yourself out of your comfort zone.
Mm-hmm.
Two, 6 months from now, 1 year from now, you're gonna look back and be like, oh my God, that was me. Like this is what I sounded like. And you're gonna sound
Mm-hmm.
different. You're gonna sound completely different than you
Yep.
did from when your first 10 episodes. And then you're going to look back and be like, I'm so happy I did that, even though I was uncomfortable, or even though I was, not at all perfect, or had no
Mm-hmm.
idea what I was doing. Because now, if I would have started now, it would have been the same thing. It's like you got to do
Mm-hmm.
it now, or else you're going to look back and you're like, why did I do this then? Or it's totally kind of that mindset game. But that
Yeah.
was another big thing, is confidence. My confidence was I mean, from someone that was so shy growing up, so shy. And I think that really stemmed from being an immigrant and or
Mm.
first generation, and coming to the United States, not knowing anybody. I just had like had a traumatic childhood. I mean, who didn't? But also just it was a very it was a very interesting childhood. And so during my elementary school years and middle school years, I was so shy, and I took that into high school a little bit. High school, I bloomed a little bit more, but then that always stuck with me. So I never thought that I could get this confidence or have this confidence. I didn't know that was even in me. But once I started my business, once I became an entrepreneur and moved forward with that, and had these like groundbreaking moments and had these learning experiences and worked with other clients, I realized like I need to be the person that leads. I need to be the person that speaks out. I need to set my boundaries. And you just build to this confidence one after the other. And I feel like has been my biggest takeaway, and something that I have absolutely loved from this whole journey of being a business owner. I took that, especially taking that and going into content creation over this year. Like, I feel like if anything, that has been kind of the big seed, is my confidence. Because if I had started a TikTok or content creation like a year ago or even 2 years ago, no. I'm like, how am I going to get in front of the camera and talk to people? Or like, what am I doing? Like, running the streets like this? No way. But now I'm like, I do not care. I'm like, I'm going to go
Yeah.
for
That's so awesome. I love like hearing these stories, like your story, everybody's story, because it's like we were this person a few years back,
it.
and
Yeah.
and we grew up like or transformed into a person that we would have never imagined. So
Yeah.
for me, I really have the same like similar story because I was labeled as a shy kid, a quiet kid. Like parents teacher conference comes, it's like oh your daughter has to speak more, blah blah blah, participate more, and even in high school too. It was until probably like sophomore year, where it was like my friend, I made friends because I didn't have friends for like freshman and sophomore year. And
Yeah.
then sophomore year, second semester, you could say, I joined sports, and that's where I started like getting out of my shell. But even after that, and then college came, and then I had no friends again because my friends from high school didn't go to the same college. So
Starting all over.
I went back to being the shy kid and whatever. And then it's like it's been like a whole process of me trying to get out of my shell and all of that. But now starting my podcast is like I would have never imagined me talking to awesome people like you, where it's like
Yeah.
you could see the transformation. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's really really awesome.
Yeah. I love that.
Okay, I have two. No, I have one question with the
Yeah.
hiring. How
Yeah.
was that experience for you? Because I know for many business owners or people who are starting their entrepreneurship, one of the difficult or hard, difficult things to do is hire people. So for you, how was that? How was that process for you?
Yeah, on both sides. I mean, I guess on the side of people hiring me as,
Mm.
their social media manager or social media marketing strategist, um, I have definitely evolved over the past 2.5 years since when I started this at the very beginning. Like, I didn't have any proof to show of any social media management experience. I didn't have any proof to
Mm.
show of any blogs. So it was very much how I was going to captivate them at the initial call, which is called the discovery call.
Mm-hmm.
Once they inquire, we do a discovery call, which is about a 20-30 minute call of them telling me what it is they need help with, and then me kind of telling them, like, okay, this is how I can help you. This is what I recommend. This is how many hours a week I would recommend you hire me on for.
Mm.
And since, you send them the contract, you send them a proposal, and since you're doing freelancing, you can work with multiple businesses. But at the very beginning, it was very much relied on that discovery call. And
Mm.
I knew that every discovery call and every client was going to be like my biggest client yet, because every single client was going to be an experience of me getting better at whatever task that I was performing, and me having that actual experience. Because, to be honest, you could, like I said, you could have any experience in your job, and it will help you. Those skill sets will help you into, the becoming a virtual assistant or a social media manager. However, um a lot of it you're going to learn as you go. A lot of it you're going to be watching YouTube videos, you're going to be doing some Google research, you're going to be, watching it and doing it at the same time. You're also going to be asking a lot of questions probably to your client. So it very much relied on that discovery call and how I would captivate them there, how we would
Mm.
connect. And and it's really about that trust building too. So once they sign the contract and sign the invoice, you build that trust, and you build that trust through communication, and you build that trust through the how you're what you're giving your all to your work and the task that you're doing. So that was really the big thing in the beginning. Over time, I was able to now build a portfolio. So now I have clients, or I've had many clients, and I have experience in social media management. I have client studies that I can share with them. I have past blogs that I can share with them. And that's kind of, I guess, replaces kind of that requirement, in a normal corporate job world.
Yeah.
You have your check boxes of requirements, and that would kind of replace that essentially. So the inquiry, I send them over a proposal, and in there has reviews. So once you have, a client, you make sure you build that trust. And if you're ending it with a client, you always make sure you get a review.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot to what helped is me really trying to be active on my Instagram or whatever platform it is you're marketing yourself on. So at that time, because it was Instagram, I was really active on my stories, and I was really, really active on my Instagram stories. So I can kind of showcase my personality through that.
Mm.
And I had a lot of people connect with me like, oh my gosh, I saw you really be active on stories. I was also really just trying to be active on any platform that was new, because I knew I liked social media. So
Mm.
I don't remember if you recall Clubhouse or are familiar with Clubhouse. It was an app,
No.
and it was kind of very similar to how podcasts, because it was basically you go live and you speak live in front of
Mm-hmm.
whoever decides to join at that time. It's not recorded, so it's like once you speak live, that
That's
kind of
it.
seminar ends. But you can be like, I'm going to host a clubhouse on this day at this time. Join me and we can talk about all the topics. And so I would
Mm.
host a lot of clubhouse lives. And I remember, or I would try to join them. So if somebody else I knew was hosting, that I was either a potential client that I wanted to work with or was in the industry, because I was really focused on wedding industry, they were hosting something, and I was like, okay, I'm going to go in there and ask questions and just be really
Mm.
positive, and getting myself out there. So that was really in the beginning. But again, later on, now I have like, okay, these are my clients that I've worked in the past. I my clients post has gotten 14 million views, 18 million views, so forth. Like this is what I have to show, and then I've just really built my client experience, elevated my client
Mm.
experience with past years. I would say on the other side of me hiring somebody, because I'm familiar and was once in their shoes when either they first started their freelance journey. Um, I felt like I probably have, I can probably relate a little bit to what they're going through. And I'm very much someone that if you work with me, like I love to collaborate. So I love to share what I know,
Mm.
and so it was really just based off of gut intuition, whether I feel like this is going to be a right fit and how the discovery call went, if I connect with them. And then also referrals. If somebody referred me to somebody that, hey,
Mm.
when I was needing a copywriter, I actually got that referred to me from someone who, one of the co-coaches from with Jessica's program, and she had used this copywriter. She had spoke highly of her, and I was like, I need that. I specifically need that. So I reached out to her, and we got on a call, and it went great. And so I based a lot of it on intuition. If I can feel, obviously you can't see that work ethic in the beginning, but you can really tell through a call if it's going to be a connection. And then because it's freelance work, if it's like a month-to-month basis or like a 3 month
Mm.
contract, it's like, hey, we'll test this out, see how it goes. um, but for me, it's not really about, and I think a lot of corporations or businesses are basing this off, it's not just about like what degree you got, or it's not even about what degree you got,
Mm.
or what's on paper. It's about what you can put on, how you're presenting, what your work ethic, how you're showcasing that, not like that you got a degree, specifically with like my field, social media management, I would say.
Yeah, that's actually interesting because I was reading this book called Quiet something 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 by Susan something, and and she was talking about how we live in this culture of personality. So that's where like we care what other people think about us. And she
Mhm.
was talking about in this chapter where um I think it was Harvard, like those like high Ivy colleges, where they see your resume and they want you to do like a lot of extracurricular activities. But she was saying how that's just us caring about what this institution specifically wants from us. So it's not supposed to be like that because not everybody wants to do all these extracurricular activities. Like someone was just wants to focus on doing something specifically and
Yeah.
expand their experience in that. So yeah, I thought like that was pretty interesting. I really recommend that book. I still didn't finish it though, but the first few chapters is like it's a lot of information, good information.
If it's an audiobook, I'm on it.
Um, I think it's on YouTube actually. So I think, but the voice there is not that the best. So
Yeah,
definitely check Audible.
I love it.
Um, I was gonna ask you a question of we talked about hiring, and then I want to ask you a question about pricing,
Yeah,
because and that's another difficult thing where a lot of, especially like as beginners, entering entrepreneurship and all of that, we
yeah,
tend to price ourselves like very low. So for
yeah,
you, how was that experience, and how have you like
yeah,
increased your prices and all of that?
yeah. That kind of ties into that confidence
Yeah.
built and not double guessing yourself and questioning yourself, which I still do to this day, even 2.5 years
Mm.
later, because it'll be marked 3 years of doing this in end of August.
Wow.
So it's weird that it's already been this long, but also it also feels like it hasn't been that long. But I was very fortunate to again have that mentorship with Jessica. At the time that she went viral in the middle of August, she had been doing like one-on-one calls. And I think I was like one of her last one-on-one calls that was like like the cheapest price possible because, because then she was like really high in demand and then she raised her prices, understandably. And so I had that call with her, and that was like one of the things I'm like, how do I price this all? What I do? Um, and she was like, you don't price yourself any lower than $25 an hour. It starts at about $30 an hour.
Mhm.
And so don't price yourself. She's like, actually, don't price yourself less than $30 an hour, especially with the type of experience that you have. I was
Mhm.
like, okay, okay, okay. And I said, okay. And then I priced myself at $25 an hour. Totally underpriced because I was so scared. I was so scared because by that time, being a flight attendant, I was getting paid $18 an hour, and prior to that, and that was my highest pay rate. And then prior
18.
to that, I was the jobs I'd had paid like $15 an hour at most. And that was normal. Like that was minimum wage or a
And
little
that's
bit
kind of
that was above a minimum wage.
and that's kind of what we're used to. I mean, at least in my family, my
Yeah.
cousin's the only one who's had like a $30 an hour
Yeah.
like a minimum hour thing. So yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, exactly. I'm very used to it. And that's one big thing is you get comfortable in not just what you're told, but like kind of what you're set up to be. So because you don't have this X, Y, and Z, because you don't have this degree, because you don't have this amount of experience, that you're not allowed to be priced at you're not worth to be priced at $30 an hour.
Hmm.
So that was my mindset because that's what I was programmed in society to be.
Hmm.
And because I didn't have a bachelor's degree. And I remember getting $19 an hour as a flight attendant. I was so excited. I was like, oh my gosh. And then I'm gonna get $30 an hour, and then I'm gonna get $40 an hour over the span of 15 years because that is the higher seniority, the higher the rate, but it's literally over like 15 years to get a higher wage. And this is specifically for regional, by the way, because I know when you're with the main airlines, they're priced higher, but regional
Hmm.
is like starts at like $18 an hour. So so then basically I was like, okay, I'm gonna start myself at $25 an hour. And then I got my first two clients were at $25 an hour, and I priced myself that way. So then I was like, okay. So then after a couple months, I was like, or after I think like by the third client, that was like 2 months later, I was like, okay, I'm very comfortable at this. I see like I see the pricing myself to the workload I'm doing. So I'm gonna price myself at $30 an hour. And so then I did, and then I started becoming more confident in raising my prices as not just as I was getting booked out, because it's not just like, oh, the more clients you get, the higher you go. It's about the experience, and it's about how you're delivering your work. It's about how you're setting your own for like your project management, how you're delivering your tasks. So it was based off many different things um, on top of the amount of inquiries you're getting and the amount of people that you're saying yes to. So there was different elements to how I was able to price myself, different reasons how I'm able to price myself higher. But then I got to the point where I was like, okay, now I'm going to price myself $50 an hour. And then I did, and I got my client. So I really built that up. And now I don't base it off that, because with social media management, it's really hard to base it off hourly rates. You do it
Hmm.
packages, and you just do you don't even say the hours, you just give them like deliverables, and you give them like, this package includes like this many posts a month, and then this is what it
Hmm.
costs a month or every 4 weeks. So that's kind of how it's uh evolved into that. But at the very beginning, yeah, don't start at any 30 don't start at lower than $30 an hour, because like I did, because it's just not worth it.
Yeah, it's important like to kind of like be transparent. You could say with like with what you're earning, just because like you said, $25 is too little. Like at least 30, but if you can do more, if you feel
Yeah.
confident. So yeah, that's like really important.